Welcome to Rhyme and Reason, hosted by Dr. Barry. Today, Barry welcomes legendary musician Richie Supa. And now, here's Dr. Barry Ryman.
Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're tuning in from. I got Jason Cabello in the old co-host chair today. Happy to have you, Jason.
Happy to be here.
How's your week been going? How's your hump day?
It's going good, man. My hump day is, it definitely feels like a Wednesday. That's for sure. Busy
It's a
week.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
All right. That happens. I mean, I'm lucky. You are a co-host on the podcast every Thursday called Toxicology, just to give you guys a little bit of a plug. Your guest this is a music week for the podcast of Recovery Unplugged.
It is. We're going to be having Shannon from Godsmack, and then Naomi Fabricant, who is now I believe she's the director of operations at Scars Foundation,
What's that?
It's the guys from Godsmack have a foundation. It is an anti-bullying foundation. So good work. And, Naomi Fabricant is a huge part of the beginning years of Recovery Unplugged, huge part of why I'm here, and it's going to be cool.
Love her. She is just a really good soul.
Yeah, really.
And a very tatted good soul. She's covered in tattoos.
She does have some tattoos,
which is awesome. I think are lucky because we get to bring people on, highlight people, and this person that we have today is Richie has been in my life probably for a less amount of time than he's been in my life for about 26 years. And I'm assuming Richie from what I understand, maybe when you were just a little boy.
A little bit older, but not too much. Actually, no, I probably met him when I was pretty young because, my parents in the music business. We did a lot of work with. They did a lot of work with Aerosmith, and then my mom was running the recording studio where Richie recorded the hit single "Pink" with Aerosmith, and I was there for that. I was young. I think I was a early teen at that point. But yeah,
How old are you now?
I am going to be 48.
Okay. All right. So we're pretty close in age. I'll be
Yeah.
I'll be 47 in a month from today.
Yeah.
August 13th.
I feel
That's
like a
cool.
kid, though. I feel like a kid. That's good.
And you look like a kid, and you actively do something that I used to do as a kid, which is skateboard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, as much as I can.
I used to rip it up.
Did you?
I had a sponsorship by Island Water Sports.
I skated for Island, too. Which one did you skate for?
The one down here in South Florida.
I know, but which one? The one in Deerfield or the one in North Miami? Okay.
Deerfield.
Yeah. Oh, man, we'll have to come out and we'll dust you off a little bit.
I'm pretty sure I could still ollie, kickflip.
Okay.
I used to skate a ramp in Plantation.
Cambodia. Yeah, me too.
Oh, dude. So that ramp had a really big roll-in the middle, right?
I remember.
And I was there one day with a buddy of mine. His name was Steven Spielman. And he went to roll in, and his right leg rolled in, and his left leg did not quite make it on the board.
Uh-oh.
And
Splitsville.
a helicopter had to land to airlift him.
Oh, shit.
Because it was in the middle of nowhere, right?
Yeah, it was out there. It was out there, almost to the Everglades.
Yeah, you had to walk through the woods to get there. I just, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks ago, I was reminiscing and actually looked up on YouTube Cambodia Ramp, Plantation, Florida, and I found some video footage of that ramp.
Yeah, it was probably had like DR Bono and Mike Cox skating it. Those were some of the rippers back then. We were probably there at the same time, man. We probably
more than likely.
Yeah, a lot of the, I used to go to all the Island Water Sports. They would have contests and demos there all the time. We'll have to talk offline about this because I'm sure the people didn't come to hear about 80s skateboards, even though.
Anyways, all right. So listen, we're, and I could speak for both of us, super excited to bring Richie Supa on today.
Super excited.
Super excited. Richie is one of the co-founders. He is the creative director for Recovery Unplugged. He spent, I think, about 4.5 years touring with the band Aerosmith. He's a Grammy Award-winning songwriter. He has written multiple hits for multiple bands. I get blessed because I get to see him pretty much every single week because I live here in Florida. I know that you don't get to see him every week because you're in Austin,
We
but
talk.
you talk. And, this is a man who's involved with Recovery Unplugged. He's in the trenches with the clients. He does two groups a week with the clients. He's humble, and he knows a lot of people. And he is just an amazing soul. He's also in recovery now for over 30 years. He can elaborate on that. Greg, why don't we roll a little clip before we bring Richie on of when Steven Tyler visited Recovery Unplugged?
Because in recovery, I saw God here. I saw a bunch of kids that are going to take this program seriously. Richie Supa. And let the kid out. Woo! We are in Florida. Yeah. No, this was actually very, very special for me. Recovery is the only way to keep this in the world. I mean, it's beautiful, beautiful day.
I want to thank you for doing that and witnessing what we do with music, because it's been a part of everybody's life. Like we said, the first thing you heard was your mama's heartbeat when you were in the womb, and that's music right there. So we're just taking it to the next step.
Yep. Music is, and we will prove here, the strongest drug of all.
Thank you, Greg. And let's bring on Mr. Richie Supa. Hey!
What's up, guys?
What's up, Richie?
How you doing?
So we like to jibber jabber a little bit before bringing the guest on, kind of prime the pump, prime the well, whatever you want to talk, however you want to call it. But we are, and I speak for both of us, like I said, very excited to get you on here. This has been weeks in the making. You are a hard man to pin down. You had computer problems. You had COVID. You had lots of stuff going on. So we really appreciate you coming on with us today. I'm sure our listeners do too, which you'll see throughout the show as the comments kind of pop up. But let's just get right into it. I want to go back to your early years and what your life looked like. At what age did you discover you had what I would consider to be an extraordinary talent? There's some people that love music and play music, and then there's some people who have a gift. And you are one of the select few that have that gift to be able to have, shown and exhibited that gift on such a high level. What age were you when you realized that you had that?
Well, I started playing, music as a young kid, and I got my first guitar when I was 12 years old. My dad bought me a guitar, and I started playing. And I remember as a kid, I started looking at the old 45s, of Fats Domino and Chuck Berry and Elvis and all those people that were creating rock and roll. And I wanted to be like them. But I always was attracted to the little name under the title of the song, like who wrote this song. And I started to not practice guitars to be a better guitar player or a lead guitar player, but I started to mess around with pencil and paper and words and music, and it started to happen for me, at a really young age. I started to write.
Do you remember what the first song you ever wrote was?
Oh, gee, no. But I remember the first song that I ever wrote that I liked really a lot was a thing called Goshen Road, because we had a summer house in Goshen, New York in the Catskills. I used to go up there, and I wrote this song called Goshen Road, and it was just like, wow, I really like that, And so, it was a journey. It affected my school. Because I cut school a lot. Both my parents worked, so lunchtime I came home and I never went back to the second half of the day.
Just to play guitar?
They call my father in. And what? What do you mean? No one knew. So it was my first addiction. It was definitely my first addiction, and I knew I had something going on because I just was very creative and started writing songs.
You brought up Elvis as one of the people that you quote unquote looked up to. Have you had a chance to see the movie that's out, the Elvis movie yet?
No, I didn't, but I did have a chance to meet him.
Oh yeah.
Get
Yeah.
out. Tell me about that.
We were touring, and he was in the same hotel. I forget what city we were in, up on the East Coast, and he had the whole floor of the hotel, and had our security guys talk to their security guys, and it was like a 5-minute conversation. I think Stephen was with me.
A meet
That's
and greet.
incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was just like I was like, oh my God.
At the end, did you tell him, thank you very much?
I said, yeah, thanks, thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Well,
very much.
I have I've seen that movie twice already. I think that it was a good portrayal of his life from everything I've read about him. I was only 2 years old when he died, so I'm born in '75. He died in '77.
Right.
So I didn't have that connection to the movie that I think you would have if you saw it, because it shows where he came from, how he started, the people who inspired him, and how his career took off, and then at the end, really how addiction got him. So I think that you would relate a lot to that entire movie.
Yeah, I got to check that out. Definitely.
So what would be, or what would you consider to be your first big break, right? We talk to, at Recovery Unplugged, we talk to aspiring musicians. This world we live in today, everybody's trying to put their music out there, and there's 0.00001% of people that are talented that ever really make it to the level you did. What would you consider to be your first big break? Like, what did that look like? How did it occur?
I auditioned for a Broadway show called Hair in the late '60s, 68, 69.
Was that with Robin McNamara?
With Robin McNamara.
Okay.
Robin and I were in the same show.
Okay, go ahead.
And prior to that, I was in a very well-known band called the Rich Kids. We were based out of Long Island, and we came up with the Vagrants, which was Leslie West before Mountain, and we made a big name for ourselves. And we got signed to Columbia Records by Clive Davis, and we put out an album called Man. We changed the name to Man. And in the interim, I was asked by my business manager then, at the time, why don't you go there's an open audition for Hair on Broadway. And I went, wow, that's weird. I'll check that out. And make a long story short, I auditioned, I got the lead in the show.
Oh.
And I did a character called George Berger for I don't know how long, maybe 6 months. But at that time during the show, I was offered a recording contract by Paramount Records, and I really wanted to get my guitar strapped around me again. And the acting thing was fun and all that, but there was something missing.
Yeah, didn't you, if I'm not mistaken, isn't there a part in Hair where everybody is in their birthday suits?
Pretty damn close.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say that's why you wanted to put the guitar back on and strap it on to...
Can we stop using words like strap on this show? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm getting a really bad visual of this hair thing. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
it was the first semi-nude show ever on Broadway. they would dim the lights, and we would get into this, position, and that's how it
How was
was.
that? I mean, was that like, were you comfortable with that?
Not totally.
But I mean, I guess with everybody else doing the same thing, you're kind of like in unison. It's not like you're out there by yourself doing a
Well,
monologue.
I had to come out in the beginning of the show as my character and go, "Hi, my name is Burger, George Burger, but don't call me George. You can call me Hamburger, Cheeseburger, um, unbutton my pants Burger, pull my pants down Burger. Can you hold my pants Lady Burger, but don't call me George." And there I was in my smiley face,
Very nice.
alone on stage. That was a little tough, but I got used to it.
Listen, I was today years old when I learned that, so it's always nice to learn something new about you. I'm glad I did not see the show. I'm sure there is footage out there somewhere, and I bet there are some listeners that are currently Googling George Berger nude hair Broadway Supa, and something's going to pop up. I have a feeling.
I don't think anything is going to pop up because I never could find it.
I don't know. I mean, all that stuff is out there somewhere, Richie. So we gotta be careful. Okay. So when you signed to Paramount Records at that point, was that still under the guise of the Rich Kids?
No, that was Richie Supa as a singer-songwriter.
Gotcha. So how did you get involved with, what was your next step to what we would call superstardom?
I started touring. My band was called Supa's Jamboree. 50% of the band, 60% of the band wound up to be Billy Joel's band. It was Liberty DeVito and
The drummer, Liberty.
Yeah, Doug Stegmeyer and all those people. And we toured, opening to Hall and Oates and all those acts that were touring back in the day. Don McLean had American Pie, toured with them, and kind of worked my way up. It's a process.
Now, at this point during the Jamboree, were you writing all of your own songs?
Yes, I was.
Okay, so you realized at this point you just had this knack for songwriting.
I did, and I got signed to a songwriters deal to a company called Screen Gems, which was a division of Columbia Records, and I started writing songs, and the history speaks for itself. There's so many artists that I recorded for that did my stuff. I got a list here. I sold over 100 million records. I wrote for Ozzy Osbourne, Humble Pie, Pink, Johnny Winter. I'll stop there. Johnny Winter. I wrote Stone County Wanted Man, which was the single off of one of his albums. I went to Madison Square Garden. I saw 18,000 people singing my lyrics, and I went,
That's so cool.
Yep, this is what I want to do.
What was your first gold record or top 10 hit?
God, I don't remember. I mean, I was on a lot of number one albums, like including his.
Right.
Ozzy Osbourne, Humble Pie, Pink.
Right. So many that you can't even remember what your first
Helm,
was. Yeah.
Tom Jones. I wrote Something About You, Baby I Like. Air Supply, number one. Keeping the Love Alive. Glenn Campbell, Willie Nelson. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
That's impressive.
I mean, that's you don't hear this often. Okay, just to put that out there. So, how did you wind up getting involved with Aerosmith?
Aerosmith was managed by a company called Lieber Krebs, which was a big management company back in the day. And I was signed as an artist. And Aerosmith was finishing up a business meeting one day, and I was coming in for my business meeting, and David Krebs said, "Richie Supa, meet Steven Tyler," and introduced me to the band. And David said, Richie's a great songwriter. You guys should get together. And he goes, "Yeah, let me hear something." So he put on one of my cuts from the album that I just finished. I think he played "Chip Away the Stone," and Steven went, "Holy shit!" So we got to be talking. He goes, "I want to do that song." I said, "All right, call me later." I said, "I live uptown." So he came over. I broke out the goods, if you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
the rest is history. We've been friends for 60 years.
So if we
Really?
could backtrack really quick, I would just like to know when the goods started becoming, when you started. When did you start using? When did that become
I
part of
started
your?
using at 18 years old. I tried to go to college. My father wanted me to go to college. So I tried to go to University of Miami. I lived in New York. I came down to here, and I lasted a year. My freshman
Great
year.
cocaine. Great cocaine here in
Yeah,
Miami.
didn't have cocaine then, but I started smoking weed a lot. And I went back to New York. It wasn't working. School wasn't working for me. Music was working. And I had to, I started to experiment, tunals, seconals, try this, try that. But I didn't really bump into heroin until in the midst of my Aerosmith days. That would be in the mid 70s. And when I found the combination of heroin and cocaine and freebase, that was it for me.
Yeah.
That was it. And from there it was just I became completely addicted. Still wrote songs. I wrote a lot of songs high that made it on radio.
Right.
And which became a difficult thing for me to deal with when I put the drugs down, because my disease said to me, "You'll never write another song again."
Oh yeah, that creative.
Yeah.
That you can't be creative without this, right?
Yeah, you see that platinum album on the wall there, because I have a den inside with just tons of. I mean, you got to see a couple of gold records back there, but there's a room inside that has 12 of them around the room.
Right.
And I was high up for a lot of it, so it was a very difficult transition for me.
When did you actually get clean? How many years ago?
1988, October 18th, 1988. I tried in July of 88 and got 60 days and relapsed. Somebody sent me a package of cocaine. A friend and friend.
Oh, wait a minute. This is a great story, okay? And let me see if I tell it right. All right. You had, I don't know, maybe 30, 60, 90 days clean. You were living here in Florida already, correct? So
Correct.
I've been to your house. You have a beautiful home, and your pool is in the back, and then behind your pool, you're on the water. So you have this dock, this deck. And here you were, you had 30, 60, 90 days clean, however long it was.
60 days, yeah.
Yeah, and your friend sends you a care package of this big bag of cocaine.
I know where you're going with this.
And listen, you had recovery in your mind. You were gung-ho recovery, and you were going to take this cocaine, and you were going to walk it out back, and you were going to dump it into the waterway behind your house. The fish were going to have a great day. And somewhere between your house and the water, you tripped, and the entire bag went up your nose.
Correct. Both
is that a pretty accurate assessment of what went down?
That's a pretty accurate assessment, yes.
But before that, because I remember us talking and you telling me that I think it was didn't you have a deal with Atlantic for a while? was it Atlantic Records or another record company, and they would check your arms to see that you were
Oh,
clean, right?
that was Columbia.
That was
Yeah,
Columbia.
yeah. I was on a couple of different labels. Yeah.
Okay. And that was so. I mean, that 60 days wasn't your first time attempting to get clean. You had tried a bunch of times, didn't you? Didn't you go AWOL from a facility in New York?
Yes. Yes. Down. Yeah. Daytop Village.
Wait, I want to talk about another facility in New York that you were in, the old Rikers Island.
I was in Rikers Island. Yep. I spent I don't know 10 weeks in Rikers Island, and they sent me upstate to New York because I got busted with a half a kilo of cocaine.
Well, when you inconspicuously try to drive into Lower Manhattan in a limo to cop cocaine, it's you're not so undercover in that situation. I mean, what were you thinking?
I wasn't thinking.
Yeah, taking a limo into Alphabet City.
Yeah, well, A stands for amphetamines, B stands for barbiturates, C stands for cocaine, D stands for dope, right?
Yeah.
You know, I might have heard your bit a little bit. I'm pretty well versed. You know, you put a lot of these songs in your album that you have out now, Enemy, and
Right.
you know, between Alphabet City, the high cost of low living,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
I want to backtrack a little bit more. You got involved with Aerosmith, and mainly, you know, your career has really centered around, even though you're a very talented musician, your career really took off from the songwriting perspective. That's where the Grammys came in. But you actually toured, I believe, with Aerosmith for a good 4+ years.
I was on and off the road with them for a while. When Joe Perry left the band, I came in and filled in until they looked for a guitar player, and they got Jimmy Crespo. And I had my own recording contract. I was a singer songwriter, so I had to stop my touring and help Steven out. And I think it was Night in the Ruts. I forget which album it was, but I helped him finish some of the songs. And because he lost, him and Joe Perry kind of split up, so he lost his right hand guy. You know what I mean? So I kind of took over and filled in, and I did what I had to do for my brother. You know what I mean?
So my first introduction to you guys was you guys, and I believe this is when you were touring with them. Pat Travers was opening up for you guys, and through Doc McGee, who's my godfather, that's who my parents worked for. My stepfather was his engineer and producer. We went to a show out in Chicago where Pat Travers was opening up for you, and Steven Tyler fell out on stage. And I was probably 7 or 8, and then my mom could back me up on this because she's in here. We would play charades, and I would just stand up and fall down. And they're like, "Who are you?" I'm like, "I'm Steven Tyler. I'm ODing." I was exposed to some pretty. I was exposed to all their shenanigans when I was a kid firsthand. So, it's one of those I learned by watching you things.
I learned it by watching you, right?
Yeah.
I learned it by watching you. That was the greatest commercial ever. Where did you get this? Where did you learn how to do this? So, Richie, I have known you forever, okay? And you tell some really amazing stories. You tell some backstories on how certain songs came about. And the general public doesn't really get to hear this stuff. If they're not intimately involved with Recovery Unplugged, sometimes, people just think that songs are made out of the inspiration of a songwriter, that nothing influenced. And maybe, there's tons of songs out there that obviously tell a story. One of my most favorite songs in the world, and not just because it was written by you or not just because it was played by Aerosmith, is the song Amazing, because of my own recovery journey, understanding the meaning behind that song. And excuse me, you tell this really great story on how the first few lines of that song came about. And I was wondering if maybe you'd be able to share that with the listeners.
Yeah, I went to a Narcotics Anonymous convention, and make a long story short, during the countdown, this girl had one day clean and stood up and yelled out, I kept the right ones out and let the wrong ones in all my life. And I went, holy, really? I think I jotted that line down. And I called Stephen. I told him what happened. I said, this girl said, I kept the right ones out and let the wrong ones in. And he went, yeah, I had an angel of mercy to see me through all my sin. And I went, wow, isn't it amazing how as our songwriter antennas go up and we're on that same path? He goes, yeah, man. And that's probably the name of the song too. Amazing.
Did you run to the piano at that point and start with the ding?
I started with it, and I flew out. I flew out to meet Stephen. They were recording an album. I think we went to Boston and then L.A. And I wrote half the lyrics on the way up because I had to sit on my hands.
Yeah.
Just for the listeners, that song starts out, and I'm going to display my amazing voice.
Here we go.
I kept the right ones out and let the wrong ones in. Had an angel of mercy to see me through all my sins. There were times in my life that I was going insane, trying to walk through the pain. And when I lost my grip and I hit the floor,
I thought I could leave, but I couldn't get out
the door. I was so sick and tired of living a lie. I was wishing that I would die. Oh, it's amazing. With a blink of an eye, you finally see the light. Okay, so I could go on and on. I literally know every word to that song. But I think the greatest line in that song is the following. You have to learn to crawl before you learn to walk. That line means so much, right? We come into recovery and we're ready to take on the world, and we don't even know what we're doing yet, right? And it is the perfect example of getting better in any sense of the word, whether it's with addiction, through a surgery. It's baby steps, right? That Rome was not built in one day, and we have to take it slow, but you keep putting one foot in front of the other, and boom, you get there. Thanks, Dan Dempsey. I'm going to be selling tickets on Live Nation to my next event.
I'll be your manager.
Atlantic Records can check my arms. They look good. No track marks. I'm good to go. So, that was an awesome song. It's an awesome story. Your relationship with Steven is even awesomer, if that's even a word. And then there was another story. You wrote another hit song called Pink.
Yes.
And this song was inspired right here in South Florida in Miami. You wanna this also won a Grammy, right? The song Pink.
Yes, they won a Grammy. Yes.
Okay. So
everybody was kind of hunkered down at the Marlin Hotel and using the studio downstairs in the hotel, and I was
there.
Yep, and yep.
Were you really?
I was.
Yeah, Jason was there the whole time, and I was sharing a suite with Stephen, and I had a song idea called Kink, K-I-N-K, and I started to play it for him, and the music was good, but the lyrics weren't so good. And we decided to take a break and go get some lunch. When we walked outside the hotel, parked out in front of the Marlin Hotel, was a 1956 pink Cadillac convertible. Remember that, Jason?
Oh yeah. If you see my mom commented there. If you see her picture, it is the South Beach Studios. That was their logo, the bass guitar sitting on the beach.
Yeah. And so the car was there, and I think there was a girl sitting in the car that day, and she opened the door and stepped out. All we saw was a leg come out, and she had on pink stiletto heels matching the car. And Stephen gave me the Barney bubble sound like, oh. And he goes, Richie, the song isn't kink. We need to write the song pink, not kink, pink.
Well, yeah, part of the reason that I used to hang out there so much too was the recording studio was there in the middle, and then Elite Modeling Agency was right upstairs. So
On the second, yes, Elite,
yeah.
right, yes.
So
That's where she was from.
you had all the most beautiful models from all over the world that were like hanging out there, and my mom was always like, "Why do you like hanging out here so much, Jason?" I'm like, "I don't know."
Yeah, and I think we invited her up to the suite for some inspiration.
Oh,
Wah, wah. And
Yeah.
anyway, we wrote this song called Pink. It was the silliest song I ever wrote. I said, Stephen, I don't know if I'm putting my name on this song.
Thankfully, you did. Yeah.
And make a long story short, they won a Grammy for the song. Last year, it was Christian Dior's theme song for their
All right.
lipstick line all over Europe. And, it just.
I'm pretty sure it also made it onto Guitar Hero, that game on the PlayStation or the Xbox.
Probably. Yeah.
Yes, I'm
Probably.
almost positive because I used to hit it. Awesome to hear you, Richie. What cool stories! And thank you, Barry and Jason, for hosting. That is from Melissa. You know Melissa very well. Not to break in any anonymity, but you know Melissa very well. Okay.
I do too. I guess I do.
But didn't speaking of winning a Grammy for that song, isn't that where Steven Tyler went up and mentioned that he still had half a Grammy in his pocket?
Yeah. Thank you for the Grammy. I still have half a Grammy left.
Yeah.
I was like,
All right,
oh God.
So let's get into this a little bit. You were partying pretty hard at this point, and you were with the band. You were living the high life. You talk about traveling around the world with a rock and roll band. That's a lyric from one of your songs on Enemy. When did it take a dark turn for you? What got you to a place where, and I think I could speak for all of us that have struggled with addiction in the past, that at one point or another, we have something called a moment of clarity, right? Where we look in the mirror and we just don't recognize that person staring back at us. And it's what we do at that moment of clarity, that may inspire us to make a turn in the right direction. Maybe not. We may ignore it and wait for the next moment of clarity. But for you, what did that look like? When did you realize, like, you might have been a little in over your head, right?
I mean, in the early 80s, around 82, 83, heroin took over my life. My lights were turned off in my apartment. I lived on 80th and 1st on the 15th floor, had a beautiful apartment. I had no electricity because I didn't pay my bills, not because I didn't have money, because I couldn't get out of the house to pay them, to go buy stamps. And my disease said to me, leave the power off, man. Candles are great. Chicks love candles. They're sexy. And I just started to go downhill. I hated the way I looked. And God has a funny way of showing up. Like I said, I bought a half a kilo of cocaine to go out on the road with the band, and a friend of mine who lived down the block, a friend of mine, got busted by the cops. And he told the cops, I'll give you somebody from a famous songwriter and a guy who is part of the Aerosmith family. And the cops said, you do that and we'll try to get you probation. And they tapped his phone, and the guy kept calling me saying, has the eagle landed? And I kept saying, don't talk to me on the phone like that. Come over. You only live a block away. Has the eagle landed? And one day I got fed up and I went, yeah, the eagle's landed. Come on over.
Wow.
Next thing I know, I had next day, I think that was a Sunday. On a Monday, I had 20 cops breaking down my door. And they got me. And New York State has what they call the Rockefeller laws. And a half a kilo of cocaine is mandatory 15 to life.
Wow.
Yeah, scary shit. So
What year was this?
I got busted in 84.
Okay, but you didn't get clean till 88. So what happened at that point in 84?
I went to jail. I did I say 4 years. I did 3 years and 10 months. They put me in work release. I violated immediately because I needed to get high. They put me back for another 3 months. And my parole officer, Rendelstein, was a big fan of Aerosmith, thank God. And he said, Richie, you're facing major, you're facing life. You could be facing life at the end. What are you doing? So, I mean, there was a lot of ups and downs and twists and turns, but I wound up coming to Florida. I left in New York City because everybody in my phone book at the time was either a dealer or used, because that's what we did. If you didn't have what I needed, you can't hang out with me.
Right. And I
So
can imagine just having fame and money that you just have people hangers on all the time. Like,
all the time.
just even if you don't have any money, I'll front this to you. Just,
Absolutely.
right.
Absolutely. And that's how that package came on Delta Dash, because somebody wanted, I did them a favor and they said, I'm paying you back.
Right.
They had no idea I was in the program. But I came down to Florida. My mom lived down here. My family lived down here. And I walked into a meeting on a Tuesday night. And I put my hand up and said, I'm here to use less drugs. I didn't know.
No,
I had no idea. And so that's where the journey began. And, I had that one relapse with that bundle of coke that came to the house. And on October 18th, that was my last time I ever put a drug in my body.
wow.
1988.
You're coming up on you're going to be celebrating 34 years.
Yep.
In October. That's incredible. That's longer than a lot of our listeners have even been alive.
Yeah.
My sponsor is also 88. He's June of 88. That's how I knew so quickly. Not because I'm good at math, but I knew he just celebrated 34 years. So, Jason said something, what I thought was pretty important that it isn't discussed enough, right? The majority, I don't even want to say the majority, but a contributing factor to somebody getting clean is typically finances, meaning running out of them. Okay. And when you run out of money, you wind up being homeless. You can't buy food. You can't buy drugs. When we look at people who have finances and still get clean, that idea of that used to baffle me. Right?
Same here. Yeah.
It used to baffle me. So, are you grateful for your friend who busted you, right? Do you think you would have surrendered had you not gone to prison, right? I look back, Richie, real quick. When I got clean, I was not one of those guys that said, today will be a great day to surrender, okay? I never said I wanted to stop getting high. I was living with a roommate in Inverary off Oakland near 441, okay? And his girlfriend completely and totally ratted me out to my girlfriend at the time who wasn't living with us. She was in Gainesville. She came and stayed a weekend. Through that, she contacted my family. From that happened an intervention. I hated my roommate's girlfriend for doing that to me. And then, after some time in recovery, I went from having hate for her to feeling blessed that she would have done something like that for me, right? We don't always know who's that angel in disguise. We might look at them as the devil, right? So what are your feelings as far as, do you think you'd be where you're at today had that guy not done what he did that landed you in Rikers Island and eventually prison?
No, I probably wouldn't be alive today. Just to put a cap on that story, 20 years all right, they sent me up to downstate penitentiary for classification, and I worked in a place in the jail there called the State Shop. And lo and behold, he comes through and he steps up to the window, and I'm the guy who was handing out shirts and pants. And of course, I gave him the wrong sizes.
Give him an extra small.
Okay. But I met him 20 years, I don't know, roughly 20 years later. He wound up being an employee for MTV. And I was out in LA at the Beverly Hills Hotel at some function, and I bumped into him. And I actually said to him, He'll remain nameless, but I said, thank you for saving my life. I said, I'm grateful that New York City's finest got me because of you, because I don't think I'd be here. And I never thought I would thank a rat. And
Yeah,
that's what,
I mean,
great.
and I said, thank you for being a rat, because I
we,
probably
we
wouldn't be here.
we
And I
try to
think,
drop some tidbits of wisdom on the show.
yeah,
And when we deal with addiction, and I can tell you, and I'm sure Jason can tell you, and you could tell us too, when dealing with family members of somebody who's struggling, their chief concern typically is, if I call the cops on him, if I Baker Act him, if I Marchman Act him, he's going to hate me forever. And, what they don't realize is it's better to have a loved one alive to hate you than
Yeah.
to have someone who's dead.
exactly. And so, yeah, I honestly wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for me getting busted and spending almost 4 years between work release and being in Sing Sing. Um, um, it was a life-changing experience for me. And, I came down to Florida and got into the program, and I became a service junkie. I did H&I for 8 years, and I took jail meetings in Tuesday nights and Saturday nights for 8 years. I went into jail, and when the meeting was over, I stood at the door and I heard click, and I could go home.
Right.
And I'll never forget the first meeting I took into a jail. I said, I know I have an outstanding warrant somewhere. They're not going to let me out. And I stood at that door and I heard click, and I pushed it and it opened, and I walked out. And it's like, thank you, God.
Right.
You know?
So I would love to hear how Recovery Unplugged came to be.
All right. And when I wrote Amazing in 1993, I got a lot of response from people because I'd already been in the program. And I heard this song come on the radio. I was going to put a needle in my arm, and I called my sponsor instead. I got all that kind of feedback. And I said, you know what? Let me write a song about some addiction, And I started to, and my buddies that Barry knows, RT and Kenny, they started an online, recovery show called In the Rooms. And they said, would you write a song for us? I wrote a song called In the Rooms, and they sent it out to the Prism Awards in Los Angeles for film and TV. And I think Neil Young had a song and Clapton had a song. And I said, I don't have a shot. And I won Song of the Year.
Great.
And went out there and picked up an award. And in 2011, I wrote Last House on the Block, and I won a second one. I have at my house, I got
Prism
awards on the piano. And so I started writing songs. And what I did was I took my guitar and I started to go to detoxes, a lot to Sunrise Detox. And I had a little one-man show called Recovery Unplugged.
And I remember about 13 years ago bringing you into a facility called Ocean Breeze Recovery in Pompano.
Yes.
And I have a picture with you actually standing out. I just saw it the other day, standing outside the facility, and I made you sing Cheap Seats in front of the group because I freaking love that song. And so that was before your time with Recovery Unplugged.
Yeah. So the feedback I got was amazing. The visual I got from people crying, being touched by the songs it's so inspiring to me. And we had a mutual friend, Paul Pellinger, who started working at a place in Fort Lauderdale called Harmony. And they wanted to do music. And Andrew was involved, and they called me in and would I get involved? And I went, I would love to, but I hate the name Harmony. It's so vanilla.
Yeah.
Can we, he says, well, I heard about this thing you were doing called Recovery Unplugged. I said, yes, that's what we should call this place. It's so brand new and fresh. Unlike, Serenity,
Right.
Harmony, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ultimate Horizon, and
And
so um, we started Recovery Unplugged, and I became, a co-founder,
along
and
with Marshall Geyser as well. Yeah.
Marshall Geyser, and I started to, I created Feel Good Fridays, Super Tuesdays. I became the director of creative recovery, and I wrote a song. I wrote an album of 20 songs, and I recorded an album called Enemy on our little in-house label, and it was part of our therapy medicine, and
That's
the rest is history.
yeah.
I mean, it was we have a program that's so different. With
Barry's
using,
getting choked up just hearing about this.
yeah,
mean,
yeah, and it just took off, and I said, this is my last chapter. I'm done with the music business. I mean, I did my thing. I want to give back. I want to save lives.
Well, I have to personally thank you, along with Marshall, Paul, and Andrew, because Recovery Unplugged saved my life.
Mm.
Just a little bit over 6 years ago. A little bit before that, Richie and Naomi had reached. My mom was just, she didn't know what to do. She thought her and my sponsor, who is still my sponsor, John Story. They thought that they were hoping that I'd get locked up. They thought that was the only way that I was going to survive. And so they had reached out or my mom had reached out to Richie and to Naomi, and they had offered me to come to Recovery Unplugged, I would say 2 or 3 years before I was actually ready to do it, And then when I was finally ready, I was in Fort Lauderdale Hospital, and I called Naomi and was like, I'm ready. And they let me in, and that was, I'd been to 19 treatment centers beforehand, and then the first day I came into Recovery Unplugged, there was just something different, something in the air, and it personally saved my life. And year to date, Recovery Unplugged, just this year alone, has saved over 2,000 people's lives. So I don't know what the math would be for the rest of the time that we've been open. So how does it make you feel that what you started bringing into detox centers is now, national, with all of our locations in Nashville, Northern Virginia, here where I'm at in Austin? Like, that this is just taken off, and so many people are, alive today because of that.
It's the greatest feeling I've ever had. The Grammy, the Prism Awards don't measure up to a moment where a mother comes and hugs me, cries on my shoulder, and says, "Thank you for giving me my son back." There's
Yeah.
nothing like it. There's no award that you could get that's better than that for this addict. Okay? And so, what a gift. And it's God's gift. God allowed me to do this, to write songs. I just did Super Tuesday and this week, and I just did a new song called "Hard to Turn Around," and it brought tears to clients' eyes, and it's an amazing feeling.
You have been such an inspiration to so many people, and I say that from the heart. I've been able to witness your Super Tuesday groups. I've been able to witness your Feel Good Friday groups. There is a magic that occurs when you intertwine music with treatment. There's really no other way to explain it. And I'll tell you this, okay? I thought, I've been with Unplugged now for just about 5 years.
Yeah.
And I was a direct competitor of Recovery Unplugged prior to that. And I used to think, I used to think, all right, yeah, go ahead and bang the drums and sing the Kumbaya, and you will definitely stop smoking crack. I thought it was like, hokey. I didn't understand. I was ignorant to how clinically sound Recovery Unplugged actually is.
Right.
With trauma therapy, DBT, EMDR, right? And the music, right? Because the music affects the same areas of the brain that drugs and alcohol do.
Exactly.
There's a high that comes from that music. And as every Friday during your Feel Good Friday, when you play those songs, these clients get an MP3 player with those songs on it. Okay. And we know something about music. I can play a song for you right now, Richie, from, back in the day, and you're going to be like, oh my God, that song just brought me back to when I was in Lower Manhattan at this party, right? There's all these little compartments in our head that stores these memories. It's called our echoic memory. So when our clients get out of treatment and they go back home and they're about to go over the Verrazano Bridge because they used to cop over there, and they put one of your songs on, it brings them back to that safe confines of a Feel Good Friday when you have everybody standing up and dancing and having a good time. I mean, faces light up. You've also been responsible for bringing some, what I would consider some pretty A-list musicians into Recovery Unplugged. And we won't talk about the ones that have been patients, but the ones that have just come to perform because they love to do that stuff, right? We've had obviously Steven Tyler, we've had Candlebox, we've had Flow Rider, we've had Art from Everclear, we've had Liberty DeVito from Billy Joel's band. We just and I know I'm missing
Dion
from Dion and the Belmonts, right? Yeah. So you have so many connections. You have these people who look at you, Hollywood Henderson. We're gonna get him on the show.
Yeah, Hollywood, great. Yeah.
All right, you're going to help with that. I got Quincy Carter, who we had on a few weeks ago, is helping with that too. Luckiest man alive, wins the lottery 2 times.
Yeah, God,
just like
imagine that.
Unfathomable. Like we were just talking about that last night. But you are and have become the face of Recovery Unplugged. But you are one of the most humble guys I know.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
You are always there to help someone else. I show up at an NA meeting, you're sitting in the meeting. You're not one to just raise your hand and spew a bunch of garbage in the meeting, and you're soaking that up for you because you know that that's your medicine, right? And so I'm just I'm honored, to have you in my life. I'm honored to know you. You really are, as I said about Naomi Fabricant, you really are a good soul. You're always there to meet people. You're always there to give that hug. The clients always feel welcome by you. I mean, just some of these comments that are here right now. I get choked up. It saved my life and my daughter's, and I have no musical talent. Thank you, Paul P. and Richie. My kids would hug you. It's a good life. Supa Tuesdays and Feel Good Fridays were always great. So glad you created Recovery Unplugged. Without it, I don't think I'd be sober today. Thank you all so much. This is all like, a testament to not only the work that we all do at Recovery Unplugged, but what you bring to the table. So you should be and feel super proud.
I mean, I take addiction very seriously. I really, really do. This disease. Addiction is like going to war. You go to war, you never come back the same. And sometimes you never come back at all.
Mm.
So,
yeah, I know. And we got Richie and I have some big projects on the horizon here, which I don't want to give too much away, but we going to be able to tell the story about how amazing came to be, and it's something that the world is really needs to see, and it's going to be.
Give us a little teaser.
So Richie and I have just been talking about doing a sort of behind the music documentary about how the song was written, you know what I mean, from the people who wrote it. But I always wonder if the lady who spoke up at that meeting, do you guys put any residuals in case she comes knocking one day and been like, I was the one who said I let the right ones out and the wrong ones in. You guys,
I caught the beach ball.
Yeah,
I caught the beach ball at that meeting.
Yeah, the beach ball. Yeah.
We're gonna have to try to track her down for the documentary.
There you go.
All right, and I know Richie, our listeners want to know our heart and sentiments go out to your dear friend Steven Tyler, It's been well publicized over the last couple months that he had a relapse, wound up
doing
back
well.
in treatment. Do you have any update on him?
He's doing well. He spent a week in Boston with his family. He spent 3 weeks in Pennsylvania at a treatment center, and he's doing really, really well. And his plan is to go back out to LA and then go over to Maui and sell his house in Maui. And he's talking about maybe moving to South Florida.
Yeah, I mean, rumor had it that, and I'm going to put this out in the universe, but rumor had it he was coming to stay with you for a little bit. I don't know if that was just a rumor, what that looked like.
We always put that he got an open invitation. He says he's stayed at my house a bunch of times, and I know my backyard across the canal is a big bridge over the we had the paparazzi with the big lenses, and we're picking on those so they can't get a good shot.
Very good, man. Listen,
Fantastic.
This was a real a pleasure to have you on today.
Thank you,
And I know, right, I get to see you all the time, but for you to be able to come on, tell your story. Jason, thank you for joining me today on Rhyme and Reason. Richie, do you have any closing thoughts you want to give? We're coming up against the hour here.
I'm just so grateful to be a member of in recovery, like Narcotics Anonymous, that has the power to change lives. I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for recovery. And I just want to say one thing. I'm an addict. I need to be addicted to something. I'm addicted to recovery. It's my new drug.
Nice.
Oh, thank you again for tuning in to episode number 18, the Jewish religion. 18 is high, which is good luck. Richie, let's go, baby.
Thank you, brother.